Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it! For Hopkins. Oh my goodness! Did he catch that? Did he catch that? That's the touchdown catch of the year if that's good.
And the game is over! The game is over! The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions! Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you! Let the celebration begin!
Welcome to 4th and Long, your weekly NFL talk show here on Com Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to 4th and Long here on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer, and we are excited once again to bring you an update on all the latest action ongoing in the NFL. DJ, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Excited. Second show of the year. I got one in the books. Here comes number two.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we weren't here last week due to some conflicts with the soccer game, but we are here this week, and we have a lot to talk about, a lot of action going on within the NFL. But before we break down all of last week's games, we got to address all the top storylines going on this week, and there are none bigger than the Earl Thomas situation going on right now. DJ, for our viewers at home, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with Earl Thomas?
All right, so in that game against Arizona, Earl Thomas left the game with a pretty serious injury, likely done for the year, and he decided it would be a good idea to flip the bird to the Seahawks sideline as he was being carted off the field.
Yeah, and now is that confirmed, though, that he was targeting directly his teammates, or could it potentially have been someone else? Or
I don't think it's his teammates necessarily, but the Seahawks organization. I mean, he's been, fighting with this team for the entire offseason. He's been, yelling at the Cowboys, come get me. He's obviously very upset with the Seahawks. So it's not so much his teammates, but the team.
And we're not 100% sure on what that injury is, correct? We're still awaiting what the official diagnosis is?
Yeah, it seems like it.
So either way, not a good look for Earl Thomas. Of course, Earl, one of the best safeties in the entire NFL. Wish him a speedy recovery. But what do you think the future is for Earl Thomas after he comes back for this injury, assuming he does come back?
Well, I'll preface by saying that I think the Legion of Boom, this officially ends it.
Oh, I agree.
Cam Chancellor retired, Richard Sherman in San Francisco, and Earl Thomas, I don't think he's going to be a Seahawk anymore after this season is over. Yeah.
Of course, DJ here.
Wearing my Seahawks shirt, my second team after the Steelers.
Okay. Why Seahawks?
I don't know. I've always kind of liked them. Like, back whenever they went 7-9 and made the playoffs in 2011, I was like, okay, this team's cool. I can dig it. And then Marshawn Lynch went on that crazy beast mode touchdown, and I'm like, all right, Seahawks fan, let's go.
Nice. So what other big stories we got going on here, DJ? Of course, we talked a little bit on the last episode about the Le'Veon Bell situation. We have an update there. Le'Veon Bell has said that he will be returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers Week 7, but that is not to say that he is a Pittsburgh Steeler once that point comes. There are significant rumors that he is on the trade block. Teams such as the Eagles, Jets, and Colts seem to be the front runner to acquire his services should he move from Pittsburgh. What's your take on this whole situation?
I'm still a little bit confused why he's choosing Week 7. I mean, I understand it's the bye week, but why not Week 10? I mean, that's the minimum. That's when you need to get in there before the franchise tag kicks in. If you don't want to play with this team that's, not giving you your needs, just hold out as long as possible. And I think this is going to set a trend in the future. I mean, I just talked about, Earl Thomas very upset with the Seahawks situation. I think what Le'Veon Bell is doing with this holdout is going to be a future trend.
And what do you mean?
Just that players that are upset with their contract situations are going to be doing the Le'Veon Bell method and just holding out, especially players that get hit by franchise tags when they don't want to. I think if the Seahawks try to sign Earl Thomas again, he'll do the same thing that Bell is doing right now. I mean, we saw in that Instagram post. Was it Instagram?
Yeah.
I think it was Instagram. Earl Thomas venting his frustrations And, Le'Veon Bell saying, don't worry, man, I'm the one taking the bullet for this. I'll be the bad guy of the NFL. I think what he's saying right there is that he's going to be a trendsetter here in terms of contract negotiations as far as the future goes.
Yeah, and I don't think that's good for the league at all to have such major stars continue to sit out of games for more money. Of course, I understand the reasoning behind it, especially when it comes to Le'Veon Bell. The shelf life of a running back is significantly shorter than any other position, so I understand why Le'Veon is trying to get the money or trying to get paid while he can, but still not a great thing for the NFL as a whole to see their major stars no longer appear. But what else from this week has stood out from you, DJ, as far as big stories going on?
I think we got to talk about Pat Mahomes again.
I agree.
He has been lighting it on fire.
Hasn't he?
Yeah, consider the fact that last week against the Broncos is considered a down week.
Right.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, let me look at this stat line. He has been, I think a big part of it has to be Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
He grooms quarterbacks to perfection.
Right. He's probably historically one of the best quarterback coaches in NFL history. I mean, if you just look at this track record of quarterbacks under Andy Reid, it is extremely impressive. Pat Mahomes, of course, no exception here. DJ, what is his stats?
Ridiculous to think that last week, with 304 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and an 89.5 quarterback rating, that's considered a down week for Patrick Mahomes so far.
And I think I read somewhere earlier that this actually, through the first 4 weeks of this NFL season, there was actually a record number of touchdown passes. I forget what the exact number is, but do you like this rise in the amount of offense in the NFL?
I think it's got its benefits and its trade-offs. The number one benefit is that it makes the game more exciting.
Right.
I feel that when most people are watching football, they want to see offense. They want to see scoring. It's what makes the game exciting. I think that's why college football has a lot of appeal, because it's a naturally high-scoring game.
Right.
But then you look at, issues with roughing the passer calls that have been pretty atrocious all season. I'll say that I do not like a lot of the calls. I mean, did you see the one that was called against Arden Key on Baker Mayfield last week?
Yeah, he Baker didn't even go to the ground. He just pushed him.
He hesitated because he was like, "Oh, if I do this too hard, I'm gonna roughing the passer call." They threw the flag anyway.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous at this point. I think Richard Sherman said something like, "You might as well just start putting flags on the quarterbacks and just pulling the flag off at this point," which is obviously satirical, but that is where we're at the NFL, where it's like, well, that actually might be a legitimate, point that might be brought up at some. I don't think it's ever gonna happen, but yeah, it's been crazy these first couple weeks with these penalties and holdouts, and just overall not good for the game of football itself.
The reffing has been a little bit iffy this year. I know another one that definitely caused a lot of controversy was the Browns on what looked like Carlos Hyde had a first down to seal the game. They called it a first down, and the fact that they overturned it, I don't like that call. From what I saw, maybe there's not conclusive evidence, but if there's not conclusive evidence, then you don't overturn the call. You go with what you originally picked.
Right. Yeah, then that makes sense too. But
so, I think the reffing needs to get a little bit better. Hopefully it will.
Yeah, bring in the replacement refs from like 5 years ago.
Oh my goodness, we don't need any more Hail Marys.
Oh my God, one of the most iconic plays in NFL history for not the right reasons. But
I was happy with it. Seahawks won.
All right. Well, that'll bring us into our first break. When we come back, we are going to talk about players returning from suspensions, as well as which teams are performing well and which are not. So you're listening to 4th and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to 4th and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to 4th and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer, and we are breaking down everything happening in the NFL in Week 4, as well as previewing Week 5. But before we can get to that, we have to address some of the major disappointments and surprises in the NFL this season, and it has been a wild season so far, DJ. Some of these games you think are predictable, and then the results just go the complete opposite way. Good teams are losing to bad teams. Bad teams are beating good teams, and there's no real. It's really been very unpredictable this season. Why do you think that's been?
Well, I think there's always a lot of parity in the league. You see good teams losing to bad teams all the time. I can't exactly pinpoint why it's been so ridiculous this year. I mean, the game is changing. We know that, but I think we need to watch a little bit more to see what happens because I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I think a big reason for why there's just reason for these upsets is there's been a lot of stars not on the field, whether it's because of holdouts or whether it's because of suspensions. And that'll bring us into our next talking point, which is this week a lot of players are returning from suspension. And I want to get your opinion on who do you think that is returning this upcoming week is going to have the biggest impact on their team?
Well, first I want to mention a couple of big names.
Okay.
I know Corey Leggett's coming back for the Chargers. He's going to give a much-needed boost to that defense, especially with Bosa still nursing an injury. David Irving is going to be back on the Cowboys. He can help out DeMarcus Lawrence there on the line. And Jimmy Smith is going to be back with the Ravens. He's one of the best cornerbacks in the league whenever he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big boost to the Ravens. Number one guy I want to talk about is Julian Edelman.
Interesting. Okay. Why Edelman?
I feel like other guys that are coming back, guys that I mentioned like David Irving or some other guys coming back like Vontaze Burfict or Mark Ingram, it's like they have their roles filled in for them already.
Right.
Look at a guy like Mark Ingram. The Saints already have, Alvin Kamara. He's a monster. They got Michael Thomas, who hasn't dropped a pass all year or anything. So, they got the roles filled already. But Julian Edelman is probably the best wide receiver in that division.
Right.
He is going to be a massive boost for the Patriots. I mean, with Danny Amendola now in Miami, Rob Gronkowski was really the only main pass catcher there. Chris Hogan really didn't do anything. And Josh Gordon, we haven't seen much of yet. He had a good catch in that game against Miami. But I'm really excited to see how Edelman does because for the past couple of seasons, he's been an absolute beast for the Patriots. And I feel like whenever he's going to be on the field, he'll be making a massive difference. And I think that New England passing attack is going to get a lot more dangerous from now on.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's too early to see the impact that Josh Gordon's going to have. Of course, he only got there within the week. Hasn't really had a lot of time to learn the playbook. Obviously, he played a little bit, but I think it was the most general routes you could probably run, so he didn't really need to know it. I agree with you. I think Edelman is going to be a huge asset to the Patriots when they come back. But I'm actually going to go with somebody else that you already mentioned, and I'm actually going to go with Jimmy Smith here for the Ravens as the biggest player returning to make an impact. So far, I think, honestly, the Ravens are one of the most surprising teams in the NFL, in my opinion. On paper, I don't think they have any business being as good as they are, but they've been playing lights-out football throughout the first quarter of this season, and I think with the addition of Jimmy Smith is only going to elevate them to the next level because, like I said, they're playing such good football, and that's all without their top cornerback on the roster. So you bring Jimmy Smith in, and especially in a division where you're facing wide receivers like Antonio Brown and A.J. Green and Jarvis Landry, that is vital. I don't think the Ravens have had any divisional games so far. Did they play the Bengals?
They got the Steelers and the Bengals, and they're 1-1 in those games.
Okay. But either way, though, the addition of Jimmy Smith is going to be huge for the Ravens. And what do you think overall? What is the future for the Ravens down the line? Are they going to be able to continue this success?
I think so. I think they're looking good. They put up 20-plus points in every game they've played so far. Here's a real fun fact.
Okay, DJ's Fun Facts.
DJ's Fun Facts. There's always a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
The Ravens, I believe, are the only team in the NFL that have yet to allow a touchdown in the second half of any game.
There you go. More DJ's Fun Facts. And then, of course, you add Jimmy Smith.
Add Jimmy Smith, and it gets even more dominant.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see where this Ravens defense and this Ravens offense as a whole go. Speaking of the Ravens, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Does Joe Flacco play the entire season as a starter?
I think so.
Okay.
And if he's playing the way that he's playing now, then yes.
Of course. He's got a lot of heat on him. He's got a rookie quarterback right behind him on the depth chart in Lamar Jackson that definitely the fan base is looking to see here. But the way Joe Flacco has been playing out right now, it'll be hard pressed to find a reason to bench him.
I think it's smart to have Lamar Jackson on the sidelines right now, especially considering the way Flacco's playing. And you look at the other quarterback on the roster, Robert Griffin. I think it's a very good mentor for Lamar Jackson, because Griffin can teach Jackson the mistakes that he made and why he burned out so quickly. I think there are a lot of similarities between those guys because, we've seen that Lamar Jackson in college was a dual threat pretty much. He could run the ball, he could throw the ball, heck, he could even catch the ball if he wanted to. And that doesn't necessarily apply to translate to success in the NFL. So the fact that he's got a guy like RG3 in front of him teaching him, the correct way to play football, don't burn out like I did, I think it's setting up Jackson for success in the future.
I agree. And before we go to our second break of the show, I want to get and we'll take the Ravens out of this since we just spent a lot of time talking about them. Give me your most surprising team so far and your most disappointing team so far.
Most surprising team, I'm going to go Titans.
Okay, I agree.
Tennessee, man, oh man, what is up with the Titans? I did not expect a 3-1 start, especially after that brutal first game that lasted like 8 hours, and they lost like half their offensive line, and Delaney Walker and Mariota got banged up. The fact that they've won the 3 straight after that just shocks me, especially when you consider one of those is at Jacksonville, and then they get a home victory in overtime against the Super Bowl champion Eagles.
Don't remind me. Yeah, tore my heart out.
Ridiculous. I have no idea what to think of the Titans. I'm not fully convinced that they're for real yet, but considering the fact that they've been able to fight through this adversity and get some key wins, we might see them in the playoffs again this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, especially when you look at that division and you've got the Jaguars and Andrew Luck and the Colts and Deshaun Watson and the Texans. If you would have told me through the first quarter of the season that the Titans were going to be the ones on top of that division, I would have said you're crazy. And especially because I don't think Derrick Henry in that run game has lived up to the expectations. I thought that was the one part of that team that was a lock. Like, Derrick Henry is going to do well. But he's actually the only part that I feel like is disappointing or underperforming. So why do you think Derrick Henry in that run game hasn't been able to get going?
Well, part of it is that he's splitting time with Dion Lewis.
Right.
I think that they're trying to do like a Saints method and do a dual attack between those two guys, and it hasn't worked out to the same success. I just think that Kamara and Ingram are more talented players, and eventually I think Derrick Henry will catch on. But I think another reason you got to look at is Marcus Mariota has looked a lot more solid than he has in the past. His stat line doesn't quite reflect it, but he's still been pretty good this year. He's passing 67%. He's got 547 yards, 2 to 3 on touchdowns, interceptions, not great, but he is improving from where he was last year. You look at his stat line last year, and he doesn't look like a starting quarterback in the NFL. But he's made, I think, some big improvements, especially, stepping up against the Eagles and getting that victory for this team at home. I think part of the fact that he's improving in the passing game is why the running hasn't been as effective.
All right, and now give me your most disappointing team of the NFL so far.
Most disappointing team. All right, let's go with the Giants.
That was my pick. All right, go.
All right, yeah, I got to go with the Giants because they had so much, expectation heading into the season this year. You got Odell Beckham healthy again. You got Evan Ingram, who was healthy and is now hurt again. Saquon Barkley, the number 2 pick in the draft. You think this offense is going to be high-flying, but the Giants have been pretty disappointing, 1-3 start. Part of that lies on the defense. They've given up 20 points in every game that they've played so far, including 33 last week against the Saints. And I feel kind of bad for Eli Manning because he's been playing his best football since 2015. And the fact that he's got no offensive line and no pass rush is really hurting him.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially when you drafted Saquon Barkley, and on paper that offense should be dynamic, but just goes to show how important an offensive line is in this league because I feel like if they could get their act together up front, that team could be dangerous. But right now it is not looking good for the Blue Men. So I'm going to quickly give my two. My most surprising team right now, I'm actually going to go with the Chicago Bears. I know a lot of people had them in the preseason as set up for success. I don't think anyone thought that they would be this successful. Khalil Mack has made all the difference there in Chicago. He's arguably the MVP of the league right now, not just defensively, but the entire league. Mitchell Trubisky has far exceeded expectations, coming off a 6-touchdown game last week, including 5 in the first half. The Bears look legit, DJ. Do you think they'll be able to contend for the NFC North Championship down the stretch?
I do. That offense has looked so much better. Trubisky maybe hasn't taken the extra step yet, but that 6-touchdown game is definitely a sign on the right direction. And he's got weapons like Tariq Cohen and Allen Robinson and Jordan Howard, so he's got the stuff to do it. And then we talked about that defense, dominant guys on there like Adrian Amos, Akeem Hicks, and of course Khalil Mack. It's a tough division. Especially with guys like, the Vikings and the Packers, who are usually heavyweights. But the way the Bears are playing, I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah, and I think the creativity on offense from new head coach Matt Nagy has also contributed to their success as well, just because defensive coordinators don't know what to expect. So all signs pointing upward for Chicago.
Tariq Cohen got me 23 fantasy points this week.
There
Didn't
you
see
go.
that coming.
And then lastly, my most disappointing team of the NFL so far. I'm actually going to stay in the NFC North, and I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. Last year they made it to the NFC Championship game. This offseason they get the biggest splash possible, and they signed Kirk Cousins to a fully guaranteed $84 million contract. They have supposed to have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Everyone's thinking Super Bowl run, and they're 1-3.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's just the quality of teams that they've been facing. Do you think the Vikings will be able to get back on track?
I think they will. I mean, you talk about they played the Rams in Los Angeles, and they, played their hearts out. They lost by a touchdown. That's not easy to do, to go into L.A. and win.
Right.
I think they're just trying to shake off some of those early season blues. I mean, the loss at home to Buffalo is pretty inexcusable.
Yeah.
And then the tie at Green Bay, if they just had a better kicker, they would have won that game. So they've been disappointing so far. I'll definitely agree with you with that, but I don't see any reason why they can't turn it around.
Yeah, and of course, this upcoming week, the Vikings have a big primetime matchup on Sunday Night Football against the defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. Should be a good one. Both teams desperately need a win here, so should be a fun one to watch next Sunday. But we are going to take our second break of the show, and when we come back, me and DJ have our quarter season awards that we are going to hand out, so make sure you stay tuned. You are listening to Fourth and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Fourth and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus here on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm Jason Marcus, alongside me, DJ Bauer, and it is an exciting time right now to be an NFL football fan. We are 4 weeks down into the regular season, which means, DJ, it is time for our NFL Quarter Season Awards. That's right. One of the most prestigious awards in all of Com Radio. The NFL Quarter Season Awards. We're talking offensive player, defensive player, MVP, and coach. So, DJ, we're going to start here with your coach of the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. And drum roll.
I am going to pick Andy Reid.
Okay, Andy Reid for Coach of the Year for throughout the first 4 weeks.
Coach of the first quarter of the season. Yes.
That's exactly what I meant. Why Andy Reid?
Just because Mahomes has looked so excellent, and I have to give a lot of credit to Reid for that. We know that he's a good quarterback coach. He did it with Donovan McNabb and the Eagles. He did it with Alex Smith, and he's doing it again with Mahomes. The Chiefs are 4-0. It seems like they get to this point every year, and then they slide, and they lose in the first round of the playoffs. It seems like a tradition.
Yep.
But maybe this year will be different. Maybe Andy Reid will win Coach of the Year. Maybe the Chiefs will win a Super Bowl. We don't know, but right now it's looking really good for the Chiefs.
Hey, up until last year, no one thought the Eagles were ever going to win it. So never say never. Of course, Andy Reid, that elusive Super Bowl has yet to come to him in his long tenure as a coach. But I like the pick. I'm going to go with Bears head coach Matt Nagy on this one. We just talked about the Bears, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But I just think that his creative offense and Matt plus the success of his team, both offensive and defensively, you got to give a lot of credit where credit is due. And I think Matt Nagy has done an exceptional job in Chicago throughout the first 4 weeks.
And hey, where was Matt Nagy last year?
I don't know. Where was Matt Nagy last year?
He was in Kansas City.
Oh, there you go. See, we're connecting dots here in Fourth and Long. All right, DJ, now we are going to go to your defensive player of the first 4 weeks. Who you got and why?
I want to give a little shout-out to J.J. Watt.
Okay.
Because he has been on fire. He looks like he's returned to form. I'm not going to pick Khalil Mack.
Yeah, you got to pick Khalil Mack,
My
right?
goodness, he has been absolutely on fire this season. 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, an interception, a touchdown. He's been doing it all, man.
He could very well be the reason why the Bears are as good as they are.
The Raiders are sorely missing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about disappointing teams, of course I went with the Minnesota Vikings, but I think the Oakland Raiders are right up there, especially after you give John Gruden that 10-year, $100 million contract, and then he loses the first 3 games.
Season 1 and 3.
That is not a good look. But Khalil Mack, yeah. I don't think I'm going to go with a different answer, but I think the unanimous decision really should be Khalil Mack. But in the interest of diversity, I'm going to go with somebody different. I'm actually going to go with Aaron Donald.
Okay.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think Khalil Mack is the clear answer here, but I think the impact Aaron Donald has cannot be understated. He is one of the highest paid players in the league for a very good reason. He has been extremely disruptive in that front four for the LA Rams. I think he's a big reason why the Rams are as hot as they are. So Aaron Donald is my pick for the defensive player within the first 4 weeks of this young season, DJ.
It's a solid pick.
All right, now we're going to go to offensive player of the first 4 weeks. Again, this could be one that is a pretty slam dunk, DJ, but who you got?
I'm going Alvin Kamara.
Okay, not who I thought you were going to go with.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to that. I'm going Alvin Kamara just because he's been an absolute beast. I mean, you talk about he's got 275 yards on the ground. He's got 336 through the air, too. He is playing as great as a receiver as he is a rusher. Add 5 touchdowns on top of that, and the fact that he's such a key part of that dynamic Saints offense. Number 1 scoring right now in fantasy among running backs.
Interesting.
Kamara is just an absolute monster.
Yeah, and of course, I'm going to go with the basic pick here. I'm going to go Pat Mahomes. You got to, right? I mean, the guy, like we had talked about earlier, has been really the most exciting player to watch out of, I think, any player in the entire NFL. I think Colin Cowherd had a really nice segment the other day for those of you that watch him, and he called Pat Mahomes, if there was like a TV rating on quarterbacks as far as quarterbacks you want to watch, I think he has the highest one, and I would agree with Colin on that one. I would tune into a Chiefs game for no other reason than just to watch Pat Mahomes play the way he's playing. So I don't think there's really, I mean, Alvin Kamara is a great answer, but I think Pat Mahomes is the clear favorite here.
All right.
And then our last award for these quarter season awards is your MVP so far throughout the first 4 weeks. Who you got, DJ?
Now here's my reasoning why I picked Kamara.
Okay.
I don't like to give Offensive Player of the Year award and MVP to the same person.
Makes sense.
I think it's a little bit of a cheap move.
Yeah.
So that's why I gave Offensive Player of the Year to Kamara, because I'm giving MVP to Mahomes. What else can we say? We've said everything. The man has been absolutely crazy for this offense. He's 14 touchdowns in 4 games, torching the league on fire. He's basically doing what Deshaun Watson did last year.
Right.
And then we know how that ended. He got hurt and ruined the Texans' chances of making the playoffs. But if Mahomes stays healthy, man, oh man, this Chiefs offense is going to be crazy.
Yeah. I mean, hard to argue with you there. I guess if since I said Aaron Donald for Defensive Player of the Year, I guess I'll go Khalil Mack for MVP. I think and I'm really trying to come up with diverse answers here, guys, but I feel like within the first 4 weeks, it's really been clear as to who's stood out. It's a very, not a lot of guys that have, really made an impact. They're Mahomes, Mack, Kamara, those are the guys that are really producing throughout the entire league. So I'll go Khalil Mack as my MVP of the entire league just because he is such a disruptive force. I haven't seen any defensive player play the way he has in quite a long time. I can't remember the last time I would tune into a game just to watch someone on defense play.
If he or any other defensive player really were to win MVP, it would be the first time since 1986 when Lawrence Taylor won.
Interesting.
Only 3 non-quarterback, non-running back players have ever won the MVP award. Lawrence Taylor, Alan Page back in 1971 with the Vikings, and Mark Mosley, a kicker, won it in 1982.
Very interesting stuff. So that is our quarter year awards here. We're going to take another break here, but when we come back, we're going to recap everything that happened last week as well as preview this upcoming week. So you are listening to 4th and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back. You're listening to 4th and Long with Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer here on Com Radio. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm Jason Marcus. Alongside me, DJ Bauer. We just wrapped up our quarter season awards for the NFL, and now we are going to look ahead to Week 5. But before we can do that, we must, of course, recap the big games from Week 4. And the first one I want to talk about is actually the first game that happened in Week 4. That was a Thursday night football event. It was the Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams, an absolute shootout where the Rams eventually come away with a 38-31 win. DJ, what was your thoughts going on when you were watching this game?
Jared Goff, my goodness. 465 yards, 5 touchdowns. A whole bunch of that was to Cooper Kupp, which I like since he's on my fantasy team. 39 points. But I believe he has posted the most number of yards for a quarterback in a game in which he got a perfect passer rating.
Interesting.
Jared Goff has taken the next step, man.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's so interesting to think about that when he was drafted and he needed Jeff Fisher, and there were questions about, was he the real deal? Was it Jeff Fisher that was holding him back? Was it his lack of the offense? I don't know, but whatever happened, whether maybe it's just the new introduction of Sean McVay and he's just thriving under that offensive system, because Jared Goff has been playing lights-out football throughout the first 4 weeks, as well as everybody else on that LA Rams team. Let's not shortchange anybody else. That Rams team is legit. They are a Super Bowl contender if I've ever seen one.
Absolutely.
But a great game here in LA against the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's unfortunate, too, because the Vikings do come away with a loss here, but that team played well. Also, Kirk Cousins especially, both quarterbacks in that game had a really good passer ratings, threw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. So a heartbreaker for Minnesota fans, but overall, I think it was a great game for the NFL and a great game for football fans all over.
I agree.
The next game we're going to talk about here, it was the complete opposite of a shootout. This one was more of a blowout, but it was the New England Patriots defeating the Dolphins 38-7. And the only reason I want to talk about this game, DJ, is because the Dolphins went into this undefeated and then just laid a brick on this one. I want to get your take on the Miami Dolphins. Is their 3-0 start legit, or is it a fluke?
To quote the great late Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were. I didn't buy the Dolphins being 3-0 to start the season. It just didn't seem like it made sense to me. I mean, Ryan Tannehill has looked good, I guess, and then he comes in and, lays an egg against the Patriots. I have to admit, though, this is probably something we were all expecting. I mean, New England has dominated this division. I believe this is the first time since Tom Brady has started at quarterback that the Patriots played a division rival in which they were 2 games behind the rival. So I guess there are implications to this, but I mean, it was the result that we all expected. The Patriots came with a blowout win, so I guess we'll see how the Dolphins, recover from this. I still don't buy them as being a real playoff contender yet. I mean, they had a great start to the season last year. I think they were 5-2, and then they missed the playoffs. So maybe it's more of the same old for Miami. Maybe they turned it around. We got to just sit and wait and find out.
Yeah, I think Ryan Tannehill has actually played really well, and I think he's probably the big reason why they started off the season 3-0, but I have to agree with you, DJ. I don't think they're for real. Don't think they're going to win the division. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to fall off very quickly. I really don't understand how they got to 3-0, because when you look at this team on paper, offensively, they don't really have much. I think Kenyon Drake has been serviceable. I think Frank Gore has been what we thought Frank Gore would be given his age. But overall, I don't see why they're have a winning record, and I don't think it's going to last very long.
I mean, they just barely escaped Tennessee, barely beat New York, barely beat the Raiders. They've been kind of scraping by, as impressive as they've looked, and I guess it all caught up to them.
The next couple games we're going to talk about are some pretty close ones, and the first one, the two overtime games. The first one we're going to talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tennessee Titans. This one is a hard one for me. I obviously am a Eagles fan here, but I'll call spade a spade. They have looked awful within these last couple weeks. That loss to Tampa Bay, and now this loss to Tennessee in overtime. Offensive line has had a lot of trouble protecting Carson Wentz. Receivers dropping the ball. Nelson Aguilar looked really good last year. I was really happy for him. It was one of the best comeback stories in the NFL. But over the past couple of weeks, he's looked like 2016 Nelson Aguilar, and it is not good for everyone. Of course, they got Alshon Jeffrey back last week, which you saw in that game, which the automatic impact that he had on that team. But they are once again, this Eagles team is suffering from injuries to Jason Peters and Darren Sproles and all their key players, and it's not looking good for the Eagles. They need to get back on track here. And then, of course, the Titans, which we talked about, have been a surprise. I don't know. I think this game definitely the Eagles deserve to lose that game. Let me make that clear. They played really sloppy here, but I don't think that the Titans are the better team. I think the Eagles will eventually get their rhythm back. Hopefully, we can get our players will get healthy and we can get back to where we were last year. But man, that was a tough game to watch if you're an Eagles fan.
Yeah, that's one of the things you either love or hate about football. Sometimes the better team doesn't always win.
Nope. And the other overtime game that we got to talk about from Week 4, it was the Cleveland Browns at the Oakland Raiders. Baker Mayfield makes his first official start in the NFL, and it was a close one, but in the end, the Raiders kick a field goal in overtime to win it 45-42. What were your thoughts in this game, DJ?
Really fascinating stuff, because we already talked about, perhaps the blown call that might have, cost the game for the Browns. But at the same time, you can't let up 45 points to the Raiders, who have struggled all season, really. And for John Gruden, at least, this is a much-needed win. Coming into his 10-year coaching contract, 3 weeks into the season, he's 0-3. I don't know if it's going to turn around the Raiders' fortunes this year, but it gets them on the right track. I mean, I guess you could say that they got lucky with that bizarre call. But there are obviously some things they need to tune up going in. They can't let up 42 points every week.
No, and I think I was really excited for the Browns in this game, coming off their first win in what seemed like forever. I thought they were going to get back-to-back wins here, couldn't pull it out in overtime. But I will say, obviously, like you said, you can't allow 45 points and expect to win a game. But the offense has looked a lot better. Baker Mayfield, I think, is the real deal. I don't think he's Carson Wentz, but I think he's different than any other quarterback that the Browns have had in a very, very long time. And by that, I mean I think he might actually be there for more than 2 seasons, DJ.
Maybe. And, hey, kudos to Nick Chubb with his, 35-yard average.
Yeah.
Handled the ball 3 times, got 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Maybe you want to give that guy the ball a little bit more. I don't know.
You love to see it. But those were the big games from Week 4. Now we're going to go game by game with the last couple minutes that we have here for Week 5. And the first game that we have is on Thursday Night Football, and boy, is it a good one. It is the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots on Thursday night. DJ, who do you got? Why?
I got to pick the Patriots. As much as I don't like it. They're the better team. It's in Foxborough. The Indianapolis Colts are coming off a disappointing loss at home. The New England Patriots just got to rest some of their starters because they absolutely stomped Miami. It looks like a total mismatch. And with Julian Edelman back on the field, I think that New England takes this easily.
I could very well see that happening. Of course, it's never smart to really root against the Patriots. But you know what? I'm a risk taker, and I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts, DJ.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a statement game for Andrew Luck. I think he comes out here guns a-blazing, and I think he leads his Indianapolis Colts to an impressive road win in Foxborough. And I think the Colts are going to take this one on Thursday night.
The line is 10.5. That'd be a pretty impressive upset.
I'm taking it. All right, up next we got the Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. DJ, who you got and why?
I'm going to take the Jets on this one.
Interesting.
Broncos have not looked all that convincing. Case Keenum has yet to throw a touchdown since Week 1.
Cool.
Yeah, not good. As for the Jets, I think the fact that they get a home game now, they've kind of had a little bit of a brutal stretch, 2 on the road against the Browns and the Jaguars, both of those turning out to be L's. But the fact that they're back home, they can relax. They're taking on a team that I don't think is very good in the Broncos. Maybe Sam Darnold will return to form. Maybe this is the week they do it. So, that Week 1 form that we saw against the Lions. So, I think it's going to happen sometime. Might be this week.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Broncos on this one, though. I think both offenses are pretty anemic here, so I'm not going to base this decision off any of the quarterback play. I just think the Broncos have a superior defense here. I think it's going to be a defensive battle, and I think the Broncos are going to find a way to pull out a road win here.
All right.
Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Who you got?
I'm going to go a little bit of an upset. Is this an upset? let me double check this. It is technically an upset. The Packers are favored. I'm going to go Lions. Just because we see craziness happen in the NFL. I think so far the Packers have been the better team, but I'm still not convinced. Even with that 22-0 win over the Bills, there were still some offensive struggles. And Detroit's been pretty competitive so far. I know they got blown out by the Jets in Week 1, but every game since then they've looked pretty solid. Only 3-point loss to the Niners, 2-point loss to the Cowboys. Field goal wins either or ties either of those games. And, of course, they had that home win against the Patriots. I don't understand that. How the heck do you beat the Patriots and then lose to the Jets in a blowout? NFL's weird, but maybe we'll see a little bit more weirdness this week. I'll go with the Lions. I'm
going to go with the Packers here. I feel like the first show we agreed on everything, and now we're disagreeing.
Now we're disagreeing on everything.
Hey, man.
Makes it interesting.
Exactly. And you know what? I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers here. I think Aaron Rodgers is, if you look at his history, he's played pretty well in Detroit.
That's true.
A lot of big moments here, so I'm once again going to go with Aaron Rodgers to get a road win over the Detroit Lions.
There's one moral to learn about the NFL. It's never doubt Aaron Rodgers.
Yep, absolutely. All right, next we got the New York Giants at the Carolina Panthers. DJ, what you got and why?
I got to go Carolina. They're at home. They've looked pretty impressive so far. They're coming fresh off a bye. Christian McCaffrey has been absolutely awesome. And I'm not just saying that because he's my highest scorer on my fantasy team. He actually is awesome. New York is still struggling. Even though I think they're slowly starting to get it together, I think the offense has looked a little bit better. Like I said, Eli Manning's been playing better ball. They will get it together at some point eventually, but I don't think it's going to be this week.
Yeah, I think this is the first time we're going to agree on our Week 5 picks. I'm taking Carolina at home here. Cam Newton, I think, is going to have a great day as well as that entire offense. Giants have struggled both offensive and defensively all year. I don't think this one's actually going to be particularly close either. I think Carolina's going to get a pretty decisive win here. Tennessee Titans at the Buffalo Bills. A interesting matchup here between quarterbacks Marcus Mariota and Josh Allen. DJ, who you gonna win?
It's been magic for the Titans all year long. Why not do it again? I think they go into Buffalo and they pull out a win. I've already stated that I don't think the Bills are a very good team. That win against the Vikings is looking a lot like a fluke. And, Josh Allen, I feel bad for him. He's been, absolutely destroyed. Terrible situation to come into as a rookie quarterback and then, get sacked. I think it's 14 times in 4 games. I think he's on pace to break the record for most quarterback sacks in a season. Every way I look at this, I think it's a bit of a mismatch. Tennessee's defense has been surprisingly good this year. And considering that the offense has looked okay, they're just coming off of a win against Philadelphia at home. So I got to go with the Titans. I'm
going to agree with you on this one as well. I think Tennessee is a hot team right now. They're on a roll. Buffalo has looked, other than that surprising win against Minnesota, I'd argue probably the worst team in the NFL. But who knows? Stranger things have happened, certainly this season specifically. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Josh Allen pull out a big home win here. Atlanta Falcons at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Personally, one of my most anticipated matchups of this week. Who you got, DJ?
I think this is going to be a good game. I think this is finally the week where the Steelers' offense starts putting it together. We saw glimpses of that in Week 1 with James Conner looking really good. But I think that, especially against a terrible Falcons defense that is missing guys like Keanu Neal and Deion Jones, that, guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown are going to have, a really great game. It pains me to say it, though, but I'm going to pick the Falcons because the offense has looked absolutely elite. Matt Ryan is playing some of the best football he's ever played. Julio Jones is on pace for over 2,000 receiving yards.
And 0 touchdowns.
It's true. And, you look at rookie Calvin Ridley, and he's been absolutely on fire as well. Devonta Freeman's been out these couple weeks with an injury. They haven't needed him. This offense has been absolutely crazy. And the only reason that they're 1-3 right now is because their defense can't stop anything. But look at the Steelers' secondary. There's nobody notable there. I hate to say it, but I think Atlanta's going to come into Pittsburgh and grab a W.
I think this game is going to be actually pretty close. I think it's going to be an offensive shootout here, but I also am taking the Falcons in this one. I just think the Steelers are falling apart, man. And I know the Falcons don't have much better of a record, but I think the Falcons' offense is better. And I think it's going to be an exciting one to watch. I'm going to take Atlanta, and not just because I have Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley on my fantasy team. But yeah,
I'm
I
not
think.
playing you in fantasy this week. That might be bad.
Yeah, so sorry, Sarah. But Matt Ryan and the Falcons are going to come into Pittsburgh, get a big road win, and the Steelers are going to be a miss.
1-3-1. That'd be terrible.
That would be terrible. All right, Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. Does Baker get a second win?
No.
Okay.
Cleveland looked better, absolutely, with Baker Mayfield at the helm. I think you're right in talking about how, this guy might be the guy they've been looking for. Finally, get it right after 29 tries. But Baltimore has just looked so good. It's tough for me to pick against a team that's, 3-1, has put up 20 points in every game that they've played. And like I've said, they still have yet to let up a second-half touchdown. Maybe that streak will be broken because of how good the Browns have been looking lately, but I think that as good as the Browns have been looking, the Ravens have been looking better. And with Jimmy Smith back, I think they win.
Yeah, certainly the Ravens have been one of the top teams in the NFL through the first 4 weeks, as we've pretty much beaten to death in this podcast so far. But I'm actually going to take the upset here.
Okay.
I'm taking the Cleveland Browns to win the second game of their season. I think Baker Mayfield comes in here. I think it'll be close. Might come down the last couple minutes, maybe even overtime. But I believe in Baker, DJ, and I believe he's going to get his second win for these Cleveland Browns here at home.
All right.
Miami Dolphins at the Cincinnati Bengals. Who you got?
Now, the Bengals have been one of the most interesting teams this year. I know that the Dolphins are 3-1, but as far as surprising 3-1 teams go, I think the Bengals have looked better. I mean, you talk about Andy Dalton. I mean, he didn't have a great game in that loss against Carolina, but, he's still had a pretty fine season this year. I mean, he put up 37 points against the Falcons, and he's got weapons. He's got A.J. Green, and it's a home game. So I already talked about how I'm not convinced by the Dolphins yet. I'm not totally convinced by the Bengals yet either, but they look like the better team. They're favored by 6.5. I've got to pick the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals here, too. I don't think the Dolphins are for real. I don't like the Bengals either as far as a long term, but I think in this game they're the better team and they're at home. So I'm going to give a win for the Bengals here. We got 7 more games to go through and not a lot of time, so we got to quickly go through these last 7. But the next one we got to talk about, arguably the game of the week, Jacksonville at Kansas City. DJ, who you got?
Ooh, it's a high-powered offense versus one of the best defense in the league. I think that Mahomes is going to get tested for once. I'm picking Jacksonville. I mean, they got guys on there like Calais Campbell, who's going to, put pressure on him all day. You got, absolutely awesome cornerbacks like A.J. Bouye and Jalen Ramsey that are going to be hounding all over the ball. I think that Mahomes is going to get his wake-up slap here in the NFL and say, you can't win everyone. You can't be perfect every week.
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs here. I think Pat Mahomes is on fire. I think he finds a way to exploit this defense. The Chiefs are at home. I'm taking a big Kansas City win here. Oakland Raiders at the L.A. Chargers.
I'm going to go Chargers. Even though I think the Raiders are trending up and I think their offense is looking better, I still think that the Chargers are just simply the better team. And in the fact that they're home, well, actually I don't know how much that a factor is because they don't really have a home.
Yeah.
But Phillip Rivers has looked, of the veteran quarterbacks in this league that have been in here for 10 or more years, he's looked like one of the best. And, you bring a guy like Corey Liuget back who can, really make a play on defense. And we got a, much improved Chargers team, and I think that they are going to be victorious at home this week.
I'm going to go with the Chargers as well here for the exact same reason you just said. I think they're just overall the better team here. Raiders have absolutely no pass rush. Go figure why that is. And I think Phillip Rivers is going to have himself a day here. If you own Phillip Rivers in fantasy, I'm telling you now, start him.
Hey, they got draft picks, man. They don't need a pass rush when they have draft picks.
Yeah, they got a 40-year-old coach who's 0-3 too. So, 1-3, I should say. Vikings at the Eagles. I apologize earlier. I said this was Sunday Night Football. It is not. It is a 4:25 kick game, but nonetheless, a great game to watch here. Who you got, DJ? Both of these teams, by the way, desperately need this win.
It's going to be a lot closer than last year. I don't think we're going to see another blowout. Both teams have better quarterbacks. It's not Nick Foles and Case Keenum. It's, two guys who can actually play football really well, and Carson Wentz and Kirk Cousins. So I think this is going to be a better game, but I'm going to go the home team again. I think that the Eagles pull it out.
I think this one could be a toss-up, and that pains me to say it, but I could really see this going either way. But I'm going to remain optimistic here and say the Eagles find a way to get back on track and get a big win here, but I'm not that confident in it. LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks.
I mean, It's the Rams. They're really good. Add in the fact that they've always had the Seahawks number. It seems like any time that Seattle plays Los Angeles, they just figure a way how to confuse them. Russell Wilson, you never know. He's the man. I think he'll keep this one close, but I got to go with the team that has looked unstoppable.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams here, too. I don't think this one's going to be close at all. I know Seahawks have a tendency to play really well at home. Of course, the 12th man makes it one of the hardest places to play. But the way the Rams are playing right now, I don't think there's anyone who can stop them. And it's certainly not this Seahawks team without Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Richard Sherman. So,
not the same squad we saw a couple years ago.
Nope.
That's for sure.
Rams are going to win this one with ease. Arizona Cardinals at San Francisco 49ers. I think this might be the worst game of the week. Sorry, but Niners don't have Jimmy Garoppolo. It's C.J. Beathard versus Josh Rosen. Who you got, DJ?
Ooh, super illustrious. Love that quarterback matchup. Yeah, both of these teams have unexperienced quarterbacks, which is going to make for one of the most interesting games of the week. I think I'll go with San Francisco because Beathard didn't look bad last week.
He almost beat the Chargers.
Yeah, he almost did. He played a pretty good game. And he's got, some decent weapons on there like George Kittle. So, why not? Why not have San Fran win at home?
I think just to make things interesting, I'm going to take the Cardinals here. I think hopefully Josh Rosen shows that he is worthy of the first-round quarterback that he is. And, so I'm going to take the Cardinals here, but that could go either way.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys at the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football.
I'd just like to point out, why is this the Sunday night game?
That's a great question.
There are better games this week. Gotta get the Cowboys in primetime somehow.
Yeah.
Just gotta do it. I'll go Houston. They looked better last week against Indianapolis. Surprising that they let up 34 points, though, especially when they, got merciless guys on that defense, like J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless, good joke, and Jadeveon Clowney. But I think they're going to rebound this week. I think eventually Deshaun Watson's going to start looking like he did last year. And, he's got DeAndre Hopkins to throw the ball to. Let's go Houston at home.
I'm going to go Houston at home as well. I hope Deshaun Watson has a great game here. I think it'll be a close and fun game to watch, but I'm going with the Texans at home.
Okay.
And lastly, our last game of Week 5, Monday Night Football, Washington Redskins at the New Orleans Saints. DJ, who you got?
This one's interesting because the Redskins are going to be a little bit more fresh. They're coming off the bye week. This is a team that has looked interesting, to say the least, so far because, sometimes they look really good. They beat the Packers. They beat the Cardinals convincingly. And then sometimes they look really bad when they lost at home badly to the Colts. So I don't really know what to think of the Redskins yet. Do know what to think of the Saints, though. They look good.
I actually am going to take the Saints here as well, but I don't think the Saints have looked as great. I think defensively, they're probably one of the worst teams in the NFL, so Alex Smith could carve them up, but I think it's hard to play in the Superdome. I think Drew Brees is going to break the NFL all-time passing record this week, so that's an extra motivation. I think Drew Brees has a great game here, and I think the Saints handedly win this one on Monday Night Football in what is to be a historic moment in the NFL. So that is going to do it. Oh, actually, no, it is not. We have one more.
Getting the key part of our show, man.
I know. We got one more segment before we leave you here. It is 4th and Long, and that is because here at 4th and Long, me and DJ just go for it. It's time for bold predictions. DJ, what is your bold prediction for Week 5 in the NFL?
We were just talking about him. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, one of my favorite players of all time. Not only is he going to break the passing yard record this week, he only needs 201 yards to do it. He's going to obliterate it. He's going to pass for 500 yards in the Superdome. And here's something else. There's a little bit of a race between him and Brady to get 500 touchdowns first. Last week, Drew Brees didn't throw a touchdown, so Brady passed him up. Brady's at 497. Brees is at 496. We're going to say Brady stalls out and only throws 2 against Indianapolis. Drew Brees balls out and throws at least 4. So not only does he obliterate the passing yard record this week, but he also beats out Brady and gets to 500 first. There's my bold prediction. All
right. My bold prediction for the week is from the Rams-Seahawks game. I'm going to go Todd Gurley has 200 all-purpose yards in this one. I think that it's not even going to be a close here. So that is my bold prediction for the week, and that's going to do it for our second episode of 4th and Long here on Com Radio. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can check us out on SoundCloud and on YouTube. We will be back again next Wednesday at 6 p.m. To see if our predictions were right and make some more bold ones as well. So again, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be back next week, Wednesday at 6. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.